Haley Graves was 9 months old when she received her second dose of Prevnar. This picture was taken the day she got her injection.
And 30 hours later, 48 hours later, she's in a hospital having seizures that they can't stop. You're not going to tell me it's not related to the vaccine somehow.
Haley slipped in and out of a coma for 45 days until she died in September. Tremors shook her little body almost the entire time.
It's hard. Very hard.
Like many parents, Ray and Lisa Graves were told by their pediatrician that Prevnar would help to prevent otitis media, or in layman's terms, ear infections. But News 8 has discovered during a 4-month investigation that Prevnar was never licensed for that use. In fact, clinical trials showed that overall, Prevnar decreased a child's chance of getting an ear infection by only 6%, as compared to children who did not get the vaccine.
I don't think anybody believes that this vaccine was developed to prevent otitis.
The chairman of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee confirmed that he knew this to be the case during an interview earlier this month. So why, we wondered, had the Centers for Disease Control put out this fact sheet last March, telling parents that among those who benefited most from Prevnar were children who had frequent or serious earaches.
I think what you're focusing on here is basically I think we're creating a tempest in a teapot here.
But the misinformation from federal regulators doesn't stop there. Doctors who log on to the CDC's website for continuing education credit are given this test question, which asks, which type of pneumococcal disease is the Prevnar vaccine effective in preventing? The correct answer, according to the CDC, is all of the above, including acute otitis media. Dr. Erdem Kantikan is one of the nation's leading experts on earaches.
It is an ineffective and toxic vaccine.
Kantikan says not only are federal regulators putting out bad information, they're also not revealing some of Prevnar's dangerous side effects, like seizures, which Kantikan says a study by the vaccine's own manufacturer shows happen 4 times more often in infants given vaccines with Prevnar than children in a control group.
I think the FDA approval of this vaccine is an act of irresponsibility, and I think FDA is following their regular course, that they ignore the warnings till many people die, and then it becomes such a public outrage and public problem that they say, oh, we'll take this thing off the market.
But there is an important vaccine called Prevnar.
Before licensing Prevnar last year, vaccine committees from both the FDA and the CDC dismissed the data on seizures as not significant. However, as part of our investigation, News 8 reviewed nearly 800 adverse reaction reports filed with the FDA during the past 9 months. What we found is that 1 out of 10 children who had suspected side effects suffered some sort of seizure.
I'm angry. I'm not angry, I'm mad. That's just all there is to it. You know, I guess I'm a little bitter about losing a child. I'm not a little bitter, I'm a lot bitter.
It's your top of the hat.
In June of 1999, Melinda Slay had her newborn son inoculated with the new RotoShield vaccine. Vaccine ads from that time promised that RotoShield would help prevent childhood diarrhea. But within days, Harrison's bowels were dangerously obstructed to the point of possibly rupturing.
That was probably the worst week I've ever had in my life, because that week I wasn't sure my son was going to live or die.
Federal regulators from the Centers for Disease Control soon discovered that more than 100 other infants had suffered the same problem. RotoShield was yanked off the U.S. market in less than 15 months, and some are now questioning how it ever got approval from the government.
These committees became the rubber stamp committees for the drug companies to push their products in the market.
Medical researcher Erdem Kantikan has long been concerned about the financial ties many of the doctors and scientists who sit on the vaccine approval committees have to the pharmaceutical industry. On the very same day that the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee pulled the plug on RotoShield, it drafted a recommendation for another vaccine called Prevnar. News 8's investigation found that out of 12 committee members, 4 had financial ties to the drug company making Prevnar. At the FDA, 3 out of 12 committee members received waivers for conflicts of interest so they could vote on Prevnar's license. Among them, Dr. Robert Dahm, the newly elected chairman of the committee, who says that his conflict amounted to research on another vaccine for children at another company.
To understand, I still drive my 1989 Toyota, and the door on the right side still doesn't open. Nothing good happened to me, and they're selling God knows how many million doses a year now for American home products. I don't benefit from that. Nothing's changed in my life.
But you do walk a fine line.
It's a very fine line.
Dahm and others argue that there is a very limited list of experts within the world of vaccine research. They say that in order to have the best professionals on the committee, there must be acceptance of conflicts of interest.
My reaction is twofold, two things. One, no man can serve two masters. Two is that I can find 100 competent scientists and doctors to put on those committees, which are better than they have already, who doesn't have any conflicts of interest and has taken $1 from anybody.
Kantikin and others claim all this chumminess has made the government committees unwilling to challenge poor testing procedures and studies of a proposed vaccine safety. For example, here are the results of a clinical trial of Prevnar in 38,000 children from California. According to the drug company's own documentation, children receiving Prevnar with other vaccines had more seizures, more rashes, higher fevers, and other side effects than children who received the control vaccine. And the real surprise? The control vaccine was not a placebo, but another experimental vaccine that was still being tested.
It makes for better parent compliance and more willingness to participate, to have a control that would actually benefit from receiving something and not saline. I wouldn't like to submit my child to an experimental protocol where there was a chance that he was just going to get a dummy shot.
Do you think this study measures up ethically?
Absolutely not.
Do you think it measures up morally?
Not morally or scientifically.
Barbara Fisher is the only member of the FDA Vaccine Committee who is not a doctor or a scientist. She's a consumer advocate and the only committee member to vote against giving Prevnar a license.
That's not scientific. Coincidence? What's scientific about that assumption that every time something bad happens after vaccination, it's a coincidence? That's not science, that's politics.